Tribe Podcast.
All right, welcome back. Yet another episode 202. We made it through 200, we made it through 201. Now we are at 202. I'm not really sure how we made it to 202. We almost didn't even have an episode because things have been absolutely crazy. But it is your boy East Coast Trev, and I'm joined with my good buddy, Mr. Madman Mardick.
What up?
What up, buddy? I know it's late. I don't even know how I'm walking right now, talking, seeing, believing. I'm not really sure what is going on, honestly.
Hey,
This is nuts, and especially for off season of all things.
you know what we say, the grind never stops, baby.
Oh, dude, for you guys out there, man, we are 45 minutes away from release, recording the podcast. We guest jumped on, killer podcast, super pumped about it, man. It's just, and we're just gonna run right through the sponsors, talk a little bit of talk, and then we're gonna get right into it because it's a killer podcast, man, and one for the books. It really is. The education aspect of it, to teach people a little bit about what is really going on in the world, and kind of fix, hopefully, some of the negativity that has ever been talked.
Yeah, I gotta say, Nakai is basically my neighbor. I grew up right next door to his reservation, and I gotta admit, I grew up a little underappreciative of, what they do in their history and stuff like that, just out of convenience because it's right there, it's overlooked. But as I get older and maybe mature a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, I definitely am starting to appreciate it more. And, this podcast, Listen to Talk, really got me fired up for some of that stuff.
Well, that and, there's a lot of negativity that comes with res life, right? Like, you hear about a lot of res people, and there's, negativity that comes with it, like for example, and it's not horrible, but oh, they can hunt whenever they want, and or whatever the case may be. But when you actually start to talk to them about it, is that they're conservationists also. They're like the top of the conservationists on that
Bingo.
aspect of it, and not only that, but also putting what they use the animal for and the seasons, and then to also find out that the community of hunters within the community is very minute, and you wouldn't think that. I would think if you were to think, say, Indians or whatever, that you would think
indigenous people,
that there would be 1,000,001 hunters in the community, that everybody would be a hunter. But that's not what it is, and that's, he's trying to go about getting more people involved in the outdoors and educating them, and that they went through kind of the same thing as we did with having less people, whatever. I don't know. We're trying to realliterate or redo what is already talked about in the podcast.
Yeah, I think the main thing, just to brush up on what you just said, is I'll admit too, I was always under the impression that they have the ability and the right to hunt 365 days of the year, no matter what the season is. But like you said, to ever question their ways of conservation is just not. It shouldn't even be debated. You know what I mean? Like, there's no nation that is more aware of how important conservation and being stewards of the land than a tribal nation.
Well, and think about it, is that the reason why there still is deer and turkeys and fish and so on and so forth here on this earth is because of the history of the indigenous people who lived here before us.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, the conservation aspect of it there. But let's let him get into that. That's what he's here for, and let's go through.
You're gonna thank the sponsors? Yeah. I was gonna say, you got to do some housework here, man. I don't want you to slip up on.
No, come on, don't be crazy.
Come on, I gotta keep an eye on you. Make sure you keep your shit together. Let's go.
Whatever you say. So, title sponsor is Huntworth. HuntworthGear.com. If you guys haven't gotten your Huntworth yet and getting it all ready for the early season, there's some good stuff from all the way from early season all the way into the heat boost stuff. Some of the greatest camo. Hands down, get more for less with Huntworth.
Bro, it's been so hot out lately, I ain't even thinking about heat boost right now.
You should be, though. Like, come on, let's go. Nor'easter Game Calls, nor'eastergamecalls.com. If you haven't gotten over there, the grunt tubes, turkey calls, there's still a ton. Mark's killing it out there. There is a bunch of grunt tubes on there. Now's the time to get them. I promise. When the wave starts to get pushing forward, they will disappear almost instantaneously. And speaking of that, they will be at Huntworth. Huntstock. Sorry, I am tired. They will be at Huntstock. We will be at Huntstock. You can find us there. Maybe we'll be on the main stage doing some midget wrestling or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Midget wrestling's a go. Pat's all for it. All we need is somebody to sponsor the ring. So if anybody out there is listening and they're interested in putting their name on the ring, reach out to Pat. You guys can talk numbers. We got this.
Main stage Sunday midget wrestling. No,
maybe we'll sponsor it. Maybe it'll be the outdoor drive midget wrestling stage
at Hunstock, right?
Like, Sunday.
Hey, what can you do? Also, Latitude Outdoors, latitudeoutdoors.com. We do have a promo code Outdoor Drive on that one. Save yourself 15% for Latitude Outdoors. And last but not least, the news from your cruise is brought to you by Bow Hunters United, bowhuntersunited.com. For all of you guys, for the advocates of bow hunting and the ATA, the link is below. You can sign up and become a member. You do, and now I have been told that you get a year's subscription to deer and deer hunting. Wow, isn't that for signing up? I mean, that pays for its admission already, and then not even to add to that, but the hats, stickers, and all the other things that you get. So let's take a second. Let's get on over to the News Can Cruise from Mr. Mike Salter. All right, guys, why don't we buckle up and see what's going on in the world of news with Mr. Mike Salter.
Hey, everyone, we're going to kick this one off in New Hampshire, and Bill S-15, which is currently in the conference committee. The proposed bill would amend the permissible use of tree stands, observation blinds, and pip blinds. The bill provides that no person shall construct a permanent tree stand or observation blind without permission from the property owner or designee, and that all portable or temporary tree stands or observation blinds can be erected from April 25th to June 1st and August 1st to December 31st of calendar year. All temporary stands or blinds must be removed by June 1st unless allowed by permission of the property owner. All tree stands and blinds will need to be labeled with the name and owner's contact information, and no person may cut any tree in connection with placement of a stand or blind without the written permission of the property owner. Now to Kansas, where wildlife and parks officials have approved staff recommendations for changes to turkey hunting. The changes include a new lottery draw system for distribution of non-resident turkey permits starting in 2024. The application period for non-resident turkey hunters to apply for a specific unit will be in early January through mid-February, similar to the deer lottery. And any leftover non-resident turkey permits will be offered on a first-come, first-served basis, so a big change there in Kansas. Now to Rhode Island, where the DEM is asking for the public's help by reporting wild turkey sightings as part of their annual turkey brood survey. DEM's biologists are asking for reports of females with or without poults and males to help with research efforts. Reports gathered provide valuable data on health trends and distribution. The survey period runs through August 31st, and reports can be submitted through the online survey platform Survey123 or by filling out and returning a data sheet provided by the Division of Wildlife by September 15th. I know a lot of states have these reports, including Connecticut, so be sure to check out and see if your state is asking for turkey brood reporting. Now to Iowa, where the DNR is offering beginner fur harvesting workshops. The 8 workshops will feature several knowledge and skill building sessions with instructors that will teach the basics of trapping. Participants will learn basic strategies for trapping, such as proper equipment, trap placement, trapping regulations, and steps for preparing hides for trade. The courses take place in various locations statewide, with times and details varying for each event. Each course is designed for participants of all ages, but space is limited, so early registration is encouraged. For more information or to register, go to license.gooutdoorsiowa.com/events/eventshome.aspx. Now to Vermont, where the Fish and Wildlife Department is once again offering Team Conservation Weekend at the Edward F. Keogh Conservation Camp in Castleton on August 18th to 20th. The weekend is open to teens 15 to 17 years old. Campers will arrive Friday and will immediately start participating in Let's Go Fishing and hunter education programming before backpacking out to a remote pond for camping and fishing. The program is capped at 20 participants, but there are still spaces available. The cost is $125, and participants will be expected to bring only gear that they can carry themselves, since they are backpacking to a remote campsite. Registration and additional information can be found on Vermont Fish and Wildlife's website. Lastly, to Maryland, where an Eastern Shore angler has caught the state record snakehead. Damian Cook caught the 21-pound, 36-inch snakehead on July 5th while kayak fishing in a Dorchester County river. Cook's catch surpassed the 19.9-pound snakehead caught in 2018 in Charles County. So congratulations to Damian on a huge snakehead. Also, don't forget to click on the Outdoor Drives affiliate link in the episode description to sign up for Bowhunters United today to protect and expand your bow hunting rights. As always, if you have any news to send along to me, it'd be greatly appreciated. Reach out to me at Mike Salter on Facebook or bearded_bowhunter21 on Instagram. And with that, enjoy the rest of your ride.
All right. Thanks, Mike, and thank you, Bowhunters United. Make sure you sign up in the link below. Go and help out, or go and check out all of our sponsors. The links are also below here from Huntworth, Nor'easter, Latitude, and Bowhunters United. So, what do you think, Mr. Madman Mardik?
I don't get paid to think.
Okay, good. All right, well then I'll think for you, and let's get on with the podcast.
That's even worse. All right, send it over there. Let's get this party popping.
All right, let's do it. All right, we are back with Nakai from Res Life Outdoors. What's up, man?
Thank you guys for having me. How's it going?
Good, good. We appreciate you jumping on. I know it's a little late night. Things are a little hectic here already. But why don't we turn this key, man? We'll get this thing right underway. Why don't you tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, my name is Nakai Clearwater Northup. I'm from the Mashantucket Pequot tribal nation. Grew up in southeastern Connecticut, Ledyard and Mashantucket, and Charlestown, Rhode Island as well. And a lot of the work I do, I serve as the head of education at the Pequot Museum, but I also started a company called Res Life Outdoors, which focuses on providing indigenous perspectives on hunting, fishing, cooking, and land stewardship. And that's really what I focus on through video content, educational programming, is spreading that message. And I spend a good majority of my time out trying to harvest something, whether it's deer, fish, quahogs.
Dude, that is so cool. I'm like totally fascinated with this whole entire thing. Like, I know Steve has a little bit better education about it than I do, but like, so were you, as far as like living on the res, like, can you explain what that's all about, dude? Because like a lot of these people probably don't know, and I definitely don't. Very ignorant in this fact.
Yeah, so the reservation, specifically my reservation, Mashantucket Pequot Reservation, is the oldest continuously occupied reservation in North America. Reservation systems alone, where assigning pieces of land to indigenous communities, start right here in Connecticut in the 1600s. And now out of the 576 federally recognized tribes, they all have a land base under a reservation system. So Mashantucket is 3,500 acres of land between trust and fee land that the government put into trust for us, and that's ours, and then also land that we bought over time. So, yeah, I grew up really local in Connecticut, small little farm town for the most part, and then on the waters in Rhode Island.
That's crazy. So it's spread it out to the waters also, not just the mainland?
So, and Mashantucket is landlocked now. We do own 200 acres on Waterford, right on the Pequot River or the Thames River. And then on my Narragansett community, we're right close to the coast.
Wow, that's so cool. So there's a little bit of, land hunters and then fishermen that are added into it also.
Yep, for sure.
That's super crazy to me. And like, so where does one of the things that I kind of, when you think or talk about, reservation living, like that, there's a lot of negativity that comes with it. Where does that all stem from?
Yeah, I think personally it's people not taking the time to build relationships with the community, the tribal community, and really understand what we're all about. A lot of people see that we have a big shiny casino and think we're rolling in money and we're bougie and all this. But I always say growing up, I came from the best of both worlds because my Pequot community, we do have Foxwoods. And through that, we're able to, provide steady income from our community. We have amazing healthcare and big shiny museums and paved roads. My Narragansett community is different than that. It's dirt roads. We're in the woods, and it's a lot different. So taking the time to really know the community and spend time with us is something I always push on people. A lot of people are shy about that, but we're not gatekeepers. We like to share information and share our history and our life ways, and in return, we like to learn about other people's as well. The core of an indigenous style of life focuses on relationships with ourselves, relationships we make with other people, with the land, our spirituality. It all ties back to relationships.
Now, you said the spirit and that stuff. Is there still a lot of way back historical I guess ways of
Traditions.
life? Yeah, tradition. Thank you,
Yeah.
Steve.
You gotcha.
Yeah. Our traditional ways of life are ever evolving as well. We still maintain a lot of old ceremonies and old traditions that we practices, but we're also kind of creating new ones as well. New hobbies, new traditions for our community, and that's something. It's a fine line to balance because we have to live a traditional life as well, but then also balance a modern day life. Growing up, I feel like everyone kind of goes through a midlife crisis in their teen years and their high school years because there's a lot of traditional stuff for us to do in the community, like go sing at powwows and dance and go to culture class. But then there's also basketball practice and football practice. And so finding that balance is something that's really crucial for our people really early on. And then we kind of come into our own later on and find out how to do it. But it's an amazing thing to have that connections, and it's always something that I've always been proud of who I am. There's been times in my life where it hasn't been easy to be a Pequot and the stereotypes and the assumptions and things like that, but to have that connection and know that your people have lived off this land. When I spend time out in the woods, I know that I can look over and I can see a site where I know my ancestors were 14,000 years ago. I know that I can go over here and there's a foundation that one of my ancestors lived in the 1800s. So that connection and knowing that that land provides for you always, and that's another really important relationship, and something important to us is our relationship with the land, and most of our ceremonies tie to that.
So I guess you kind of already started to break into it, man. And I this is more or less the reason why we wanted to talk to you was what are some of these traditions and stuff in the outdoors? What have you transformed from the olden days to now that you still practice today in the outdoors?
Yeah, I'd say one of the main ones is a rites of passage. So we had our rites of passage to become men at around 13 years old or so. And through that rites of passage, we went out and we would go into sweat lodges. And then we had to spend time out in the woods alone and, build that connection yourself. But really pushing yourself. There was fasting in some cases, but really what's stressed early on in our community is there's no other way of life. It's regular. It's you come home and there's a deer in the garage and my dads and my uncles are cutting it up and getting it ready. My aunts are ready to cook and get to business. We're always introduced to the outdoors really early. One tradition we have is when our babies are born, we try to get them into the water as soon as possible, because we believe that water has a spirit. In our language, we call water napi, and we believe that water has a spirit, and it can be gentle and calm, or it can be rough and turbulent. So building that relationship and that connection, as Pequot people, we call ourselves people of the shallow water. For the majority of the year, traditionally, we spend down by the coast. And then as fall comes around, we move inland to hunt.
It's when you just said that. There's one thing that kind of plays that in my mind, and one of the things that I remember, like in the we call it the Thames, you call it the Thames, but one of the things that I remember like growing up, and one of the things, and this might be, I mean, you could shed some truth to this, is that like some of the walls that were in the rivers we were always told that they were actual like Indian fish traps. Like they would use them where they would corral the fish into those big brick walls, and they would narrow them down, and that's how they would catch fish in the Thames River.
Yeah, 100%. There's one that's super visible right now, and it's up by the Dayville Big Y.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a river that runs right next to it. I think I forget the name of it, but the river's right there, and it's one of the oldest fish ladders around, and you can clearly see it. I'll send you guys some pictures. Mm-hmm. It is said to have been in use 9,000 years ago, and then they started using it again around 1,500 years ago. But you can see it.
Wow.
And those big ones that are like out front of Mohegan Sun and stuff, those are also ones that the Indians had used back a long time ago also, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I think that's so cool. So and just to think about it, because obviously like I don't go and study a lot of this stuff, so it's really cool to hear it from you, but like those are the ways, and we still catch fish in those areas to this day, which is kind of cool to think about, because when you're out fishing and you see those ladders, as you just called them, like we think about those, and I'm like, oh, the Indians fished here too. Like there's obviously a reason why they put those there so long ago, to be able to catch food for their families.
Yep, absolutely. A lot of it, when you see traditional styles of gathering and hunting, it's trying to be as efficient as possible. Letting a lot of your tools do the work, but letting the land help you with that. So just imagining them studying the currents, looking for back eddies, looking for certain trends in the river, where to put the ladders, and then really letting them do most of the work for you. Using the land to your advantage is a big thing.
I love that a lot. And I'm not a huge fisherman. I'm heavy on the deer hunting side, but like so many people could take so much from that if they stopped and thought about it, because me and Trev talk about it all the time. Like we're in such a technological advanced stage right now where it's all about gadgets and the best gear you can get, and trail cameras and this and using your cell phone on hunt stand, and like so many people have gotten away from using the woods, using the vegetation, using the terrain. I mean, everyone talks about terrain features and stuff like that, but like you go back not even as long ago as you're talking, but like 30-40 years ago, that's all you had, was using the woods and the layout of the woods to your advantage, to putting yourself in the best position for an ambush location and all that stuff. So I mean, that's deep,
Yeah, and that's super important in being successful, is taking the time to learn the land. A lot of focus on learning the animal, which is really important, but also taking the time while you're out there studying the habits of what that deer is doing, where he's going to bed and all that, is also paying attention to where he's going to bed and paying attention to what kind of trees are around. And the land is a really good piece to that puzzle.
I think you guys just turned the key to a door that I think, that you turn the key to a door that opens up, and it really sheds some light on a lot of the things of the reasons why we spend as much time in the outdoors, because our ancestors had done it before, and we have now gone and opened up this big door of technology and all this stuff, and who's better than who, and this, that, and the other thing. But like I would imagine, like yourself, you are one with Mother Nature and enjoy the sport for what it is, and kind of get away from that technological side of it, where a lot of people don't. And I think that shows a lot of example of why we do this every day.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I love my Onyx maps and all my my gadgets and gear. It definitely helps.
Yeah.
I love a cellular trail cam. Nothing
Yes, sir.
than waking up in the morning and flicking through my phone looking at the pictures. But yeah, that relationship with the land is first and foremost, most definitely. And that's something that, I always tell people we all have an expiration date. One day we're going to go. And when we do, we go back to the land and we become that land. So that stewardship is so important. And just taking the time to know what you have. I always tell people we're extremely spoiled where we live here. We have great hunting here. We have our turkey, we have our deer, beaver, squirrels, rabbits, and then we can take a short ride to the coast and we can go and harvest whatever we need from there as well. Abundance of berries that grow in this region. So I always tell people if you take the time to learn the land and learn the resources that it offers, this is a really hard place to starve.
What's funny is I totally agree with you, and I talk about it all the time because being a fisherman by trade, and everybody goes and they say, well, Trev, if you can go anywhere you want, like where would you go? And I go, nowhere. New England is
Yep.
probably some of the best hunting and the best fishing all around, like, in variety. Like, we're not just dead set on one thing. We can literally be on the tuna grounds in less than an hour. The striped bass fishing, the inland trout fishing, the whitetails, the uplands, the turkey. I mean, and it makes so much sense why, like, your history of tribes were here and why they lived here. There's obviously a big reason of why they were here.
Absolutely.
And I do, one of the other things that's super fascinating to me and my little education of, the tribe and stuff and Indians in general is the use of the wild game from start to finish. Like, nothing goes to waste. And, like, we all talk about being, purists and stewards of the land and this, that, and the other thing. But there is nobody more in depth in using all of this stuff like the tribe is. Is there like something?
Yeah, it's.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry. I would say it's super important. It's something that's instilled in us very young. I always tell people, like, hunting, you put a lot of work in. The actual harvest is the quickest part of the whole process, and then the hard work comes after you get an animal down. And you really a lot of times have to have that commitment to get it done and make sure you do right by that animal that you've harvested. Um, getting the meat on ice, getting everything prepped and ready. And with wild game, that extra attention to detail and taking your time goes a long way with the quality of the meat. And especially if you're sharing it with people who aren't too familiar with wild game, that extra time is huge. But then, I mean, the things you can do with a white-tailed deer are crazy. From, the rib bones traditionally we used as, we splinter the rib bone to get needles to be able to sew our clothing. The process of brain tanning a hide. With all my deer I take the tongue out of every deer. That's one of the best, my favorite cuts. Just taking and boiling down that deer tongue. The toes we use for rattles. So we'll stick those toes in boiling water and pop them off. And then we'll drill holes and string them together. And we use them for around rattles, or some traditional dancers will tie them around their ankles. So when they dance, they sound like bells. The tails, people use the hair for roaches. And then, the call fat.
What's a roach?
A roach is a tall deer hair headpiece that traditional dancers will wear. And yeah, it's a pretty cool process. Some go like way down to people's back. So using a bunch of deer tails.
Wow, that's crazy. What are some of the other things that they use?
Yeah, the sinew, of course, and those tendons for very fibrous traditional cordage that we'd use to tie. Trying to think of some other good ones. Scalpula blades we use traditionally you attach to a stick for like a garden hoe. Antlers, of course, abundant of uses for different handles and things. I've gotten in trouble a few times by cutting up my dad's antlers as a kid. Yeah. But just really trying to do everything you can to honor that animal. And they have so many uses. The hides are awesome. And we make rawhide here because some people use them for rattles and drums. We'll tan them all the way through and then use them for our traditional clothing items, regalia. So that deer's life, or the memory of it goes on, because as I'm wearing the hide of that animal while I'm taking part in ceremony or there's a powwow and people comment on my regalia, I can say, yeah, I harvested this animal myself. I can point to the patch of wood where I found him, and it's a really beautiful thing. It's one of my favorite parts, but it's definitely a lot of work. The extra time and effort it goes into making sure that you do your part it's a lot.
So my question is, and with all of this, like, being a tribesman and so on and so forth, like, is there like any type of restriction of living on the res and hunting, like the seasons? Does it correlate with normal state laws? Or I know that the res normally has their own laws and their own police and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so technically we can hunt all year round. Like every now and then, if we're having a get together and we need a deer, we'll go out now and we call them strawberry bucks. And it's rare. For the most part, we wait until September, especially after the rut. After January, we typically lay off hunting for the most part. To let the babies come in, we'll move over to focusing more on yotes and getting ready for turkey season. But technically, we can hunt year round. We can use rifle year round if we felt like it. Yeah, there's no real limitations. We have tags for, like, for instance, if I shoot a good sized buck and I want to bring it to a taxidermist, we have tags for me to bring it off res, or if I'm going to my house, which I live right off res, if I get pulled over with a deer, I can show them that tag. And we have that in place. To be able to hunt the res, you have to be a tribal member, or you have to be with a tribal member at all times while you're hunting. But other than that, there's not a large amount of people in my community that hunt. And that's something that I've been trying to work on more, and I've been getting more interest in the community. A lot of people like to eat venison and think it's really cool to go out and hunt, but a lot of people weren't raised out in the woods. There are a good portion that were, but there's a good portion that, doesn't have a clue but would be willing to learn, and that's the kind of crowd that I'm trying to encourage more, because being able to provide a meal for yourself is an awesome thing, and specifically on the land that you live on, is a really cool thing.
What do you think that the separation from the outdoors and hunting, like, where do you think that kind of defaulted?
Yeah, I think it's as we were talking about that technology, easier ways of life. As you know, being an outdoorsman, it's work. And some people are content and fine with going to the grocery store to get every meal. Flaying fish after a long day, it's work. It comes down to people wanting to put the time and effort in. And some people, just due to circumstances, were living in cities, living in places where they didn't have access or that role model to lead them into the woods. And that's a prevalent thing. I'm sure we all kind of share that story. We had someone in our life who instilled this into us. There's a few people who you see who never had any experience out in the woods and found it as a passion, studied, put in the work, took their hunter safeties and got out there. But most people have someone, a father figure, someone in their life who introduced them and got them out there and fueled that passion.
So go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say, I mean, it's really no different than the hunting community as a whole.
Correct.
Constantly losing generations, and it only takes, one generation to not be a hunter or an outdoorsman, and then their kids tend to not be interested as well. But in this situation, being a smaller community on a res, it's just more prevalent. Like, you just notice it more when there's lack of interest as the entire industry as a whole, nationwide.
Yeah.
I just thought it was like I guess it's my ignorance, right? Where I would have thought that, the people that are, still into the tribe and some of the, the past, the history of the tribe and stuff, that they would be spending more time hunting and gathering and so on and so forth. But it seems to be that the technology had kind of taken over that, just as it has, across the board.
Yeah, and people, the community is very diverse. The community has a lot of different interests and things that they're passionate about. One thing about Mashantucket, we have really good athletes. We're a population right now, enrolled members is about 1,200 Pequot people. About 200 plus live on reservation. The rest live locally, and then some out of the state. But yeah, it's more passions to do this. You have to love it. You definitely have to love it.
I mean, obviously, I don't know if everybody, the listeners know, but me and you are very local to each other.
Yeah.
It seems to me like, at least recently, I don't know, last 10 years or so, like there's definitely some good things going on up there. As far as like, you've got the Sugar Shack going now, that's fairly new, and that's popping. And I know like Jeremy Whipple's doing some big things in like the agricultural community up there too. So like, it's definitely gaining traction, and it seems like there's a lot more interest among the people to get back to their roots and living off the land and stuff like that, being self-sustained.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a rise in interest. There's a lot of people interested who want to get out and try, and it's really just lending them the time to kind of mentor and get to it. But yeah, Meachimook Farm, the tribe purchased a 525 acres in North Stonington.
Yeah.
And yeah, we have the agricultural department formed. We're about 4 or 5 years in, and it's made really big leaps and bounds. That process has been awesome. The Sugar Shack growing more and more, where we tap and process our own maple syrup each and every year. They have like candies now and maple creams and sugars and all that good stuff. Anytime you go to Foxwoods, if you have a short stack of pancakes, you're going to have Pequot syrup. So yeah, people are definitely, the interest is growing more.
Right. Now, just out of curiosity, because I got to ask, because we notice it as a community as a whole, did you see any influx with your people post-COVID? Okay, yeah. It seems like across the board, like all of a sudden, everybody that wasn't so much about being self-sustained, all of a sudden there was more people like, what's that hunting all about? Like, how do I get my own meat? How do I get my own fish? Like, I don't want to have to rely on the grocery store anymore. So it definitely helped the industry out in showing interest in gaining population in the outdoors.
Yeah, it's people wanting to know where their food came from, how it was treated, and all this stuff has been getting more popular for a little while now, and people wanting organic and grass-fed, and what better meat than you can get than what we can go out and harvest right in our woods here.
Right. But I got to rewind real quick because I'll let you skip it over, and I got to go back. Tell me more about this tongue.
Tongue? Oh, man.
You kind of just slid it in there and kept going, and I got to hear about this.
You got to take the tongue when you harvest it. I mean, a good-sized buck is ideal for a bigger tongue, but I try to take every tongue I can, and you put it in boiling water. I put it in boiling water with cilantro, onions, garlic, and some chili pepper. And you let that boil and simmer for a good 45 minutes or so.
All right, so you're boiling the shit out of it.
You boil the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Layer on top that you can peel off. You peel that off, and then some people will put like tomato sauce and stuff and let that simmer and go in the crock pot for a while, and it'll pull right apart. It'll be like the best pot
really
I've ever had. Yeah, it's better on like elk, moose, and bison, just because the quantity wise and the size. But tongues and save them up, and then towards the middle or end of the season, however many you have saved up, do a big batch like that. It makes great tacos.
Wow.
So that layer that layer that you peel off, is that like the textured part, that like the
Yeah.
kind of rough
Yeah.
thing, and then is it smooth underneath?
Underneath that, it's smooth. It's kind of gets a similar texture to heart when you cook it.
Okay, yeah.
Be a little bit firm, but after a while, it just pulls right apart.
You might have to hit me up. I'll stop by when you make it.
While we're on it, I mean, is there other traditional dishes from Indian dishes that you still practice to this day with some of your venison?
Yeah, sure. A popular way to serve venison in the community, which I mean is pretty universal too, is serving it with some type of berry reduction. So blueberries or blackberries we'll use pretty often. One of my favorite things to do is I'll take a whole back ham and I'll soak it overnight in water that we've tapped, sugar water from maple trees. Soak it overnight in that, and then I'll smoke it. And as I'm smoking it, I'll brush some of our syrup on it and keep that process going until it falls off the bone. And that's a real traditional way of going about it, is that traditional brine process. Sometimes we'll put pine and different things in there. Ramps are pretty common as well. We ate a lot of fish, a lot of seafood as well. So a lot of those really simple methods. Smoked fish, anything smoked is really common in this area. Another pretty interesting one, I would say, is we'll take, caul fat roast in the heart, and we'll crisp it up over the fire. And that's typically always our first meal. That, the tongue, neck roasts, again, are something really common in the community that people like. But it's all pretty simple. We don't have too much for seasonings around here. We don't have chili peppers and things like that with people in the Southwest. So everything here really relied on the flavor of the smoke with the wood that you're cooking with.
Every time you said smoke, and when I think of Indians, I think of peyote. So I didn't know if that was kind of a mix.
Now, are you still are you using traditional smoking methods, or like are you on the Traeger?
So a little bit of both.
Okay.
I have my electric one that I'll run. Then I'll smoke a lot of fish in there. I'll do roasts and things. But we do have one set up where it's essentially a little dome-shaped weetu, like our homes, but smaller. And you pick it up and you put it on top of a rack, and you have your smoke going right in there. You just cover the top bowl over top of it. And that's like the most ideal way to go about it, to get a good, even smoke.
Is that a hard thing to make, though?
If you don't know how to do it, yeah.
Okay.
Early on, it's not too bad. It's pretty simple.
Trev, have you been to the museum at all before?
Nah, man, no, I really haven't. But
You're
now
I'm
going to.
You're gonna have to come down one time and go. And then the other thing, Nakai, do you guys? I think you changed the name, but do you guys still do the Skimitzen? Or I think it's When is that?
This year it'll be the 26th and 27th of August.
And that's still open to the public?
Yep.
Yeah, Trev, you're gonna have to come down and check it out. I'll put you on some shit.
What is it? What is it? Can you describe this, just so maybe the listeners want to check this out?
For sure. So Skimitzen in Pequot translates to 3-day feast. It's a celebration of our green corn harvest, and it's a annual powwow that we've been holding. Most communities in this region have been holding annual harvest celebrations in August for over 300 years. So this is something that we have annually. It got really big in the 90s. And at one point, this was the largest powwow in the world, with over 500 nations coming. We had, now we average around 10 to 12 drums that will attend. In 97, we had 96 drums come to Skimitzen. And it's world-class
yes,
dancers. It was top-notch. And it's a little bit smaller now. But each and every year, it's been growing more and more. We have drums that travel, singers and dancers that travel from all over the country. And it's a 2-day event. There's traditional vendors for crafts and jewelry. There's traditional food vendors. You can go there. And one of my favorite stands is my Aunt Sherry Pocknett. She has a restaurant in Rhode Island called Sly Fox Den. She actually won a James Beard Award this year for Best Chef in the Northeast. She has a stand there, and you can get anything from frog legs, smoked bluefish, venison, bison, everything there. And you get that experience, and then you get to really see um, the variety of indigenous communities.
Right.
All right, it's on the calendar. The 26th and 27th of August.
I live close enough. I can hear the drums from my house at night.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's pretty cool to sit out on your deck and hear the drums. And like, even if it's not Skamitzen, like when you guys have any kind of ceremony, like I'll hit up, some of my friends that are part of the tribe and ask like what's going on tonight or whatever. And, maybe somebody in the tribe had passed away and you guys are having a fire or celebration of life. And I can hear the drums from my house, and it's beautiful to be able to hear, man. It's something else.
Yeah, we say it's the heartbeat of our people.
Right.
That's so crazy. Like, it's got to be kind of eerie though too, but like powerful in the same sense.
Yeah, you can definitely feel it throughout your body, especially when you're right there. But it's an awesome thing to hear, especially from a ways off too. I was staying down on Iron Street in Ledyard, I was about 3-4 miles away from the powwow grounds, and my son was born, so I didn't get to attend that year. We just got back from the hospital, and I could hear the drums off in the distance, and it's just, yeah, nothing makes me feel more home. That's another thing I'm passionate about is being a singer for the community, because it's an important role. We sing at everything from graduations to weddings to funerals, and we play a big role in our community for that.
That's crazy. Well, let's get down to the meat and gravy of this, because like I want to talk to you about res life outdoors, man, because this is like a super crazy thing. I know we kind of went through the history. I think there's a lot more that needs to be touched on, but I think that we've hit the tip of the iceberg and we've really started to talk about it. But I want to talk about res life outdoors, man. Why don't you just lay it on us, kind of what it is, what you want to do with it, the history of it, the future of it. Just tell us all about it, man. We really want to hear about it.
Yeah, so I've always grown up in the outdoors. It's really all I ever know. I feel it's my greatest therapy. It's everything that I truly really love, is to be out in the woods or be on the water, and it's something that was instilled in me from a very young age. And my parents and my uncles would always tell me, like, when you grow up, like, you're going to be that guy on TV. You're going to be fishing. You're going to be hunting. And I was like, yeah, I would love to do that. Like, kids say they want to be policemen and firefighters and the president. I was like, I just want to be outdoors. I want to do this. And I always had a good role model who kept me out in the woods. My father was really consistent with giving me cool experiences, from taking me out west to hunt elk, keeping me in the woods here in Connecticut and Rhode Island. And I fell in love with it. And as I got older, I was working at the museum, and people in the community knew me for hunting. I've been fortunate to always have a good amount of success out in the woods, and people started to come up and ask me to take them hunting, and they wanted to learn more about it. And from there, working in education at the museum and doing a lot of public speaking, traveling to universities and schools, I was like, you know what, I want to start a company. And this all started up in about 2019, where my first real attempt at thinking about it, really like putting energy towards it. And it didn't really come around until January of this year, of 2023. And I was talking to my uncle, who's my partner in the business, and I was telling him, like, I really want to do this. This is something that's important to me. I want to do something I love, which I love working at the museum. I love teaching, but I'll call out any day to go hit the woods and get up in a tree. So we started making things happen, and he helped me a lot. He owns a business called Get Fuse, which they do like marketing for and web design for the Patriots, and they've done work with the UFC and all that stuff. So he had a lot of connects that helped us get started, and we got our first graphic up, which we rolled with. for a logo. And the real goal behind it was trying to spread positivity. There's so many things nowadays where you turn on your TV, you scroll through your phone, and it brings you down. There's a lot of sad stuff going on. There's a lot of craziness. And we just wanted to bring something positive to people that was educational, but also from a different lens. I feel there's everyone associates indigenous people with being great hunters and knowing the land. But if you look in the outdoor space and in the hunting world, there's not a lot of representation that you see. So I wanted to be able to help provide that and make it easier for younger generations of people to feel comfortable in this space. So Res Life Outdoors, the goal is to help get that younger generation out in the woods. That's our main thing. And we, like I said, we all have a time limit. There's only so long we'll be able to do this. We only get so many seasons. But to make sure that this practice comes on, because as you guys can attest, this is some of the most rewarding stuff. It really makes you feel good, and you benefit from it. So being able to provide indigenous perspectives on hunting, fishing, cooking, stewardship is something that we strive on pushing. Video content, educational program. Video content has been slow, but I'm heading to Alaska in September to hunt moose, caribou, and bear. And we're going to be launching a short film for that trip. I'll be there from September 5th to the 24th. And that's going to be the real kickoff to the channel. And then after that, things are really going to start to take off. With this season, I have a bunch of good hunts on the calendar, with some Virginia whitetail potentially, and maybe some South Dakota muleys. So it's a lot to look forward to, and I want to be able to share those experiences. One thing that I've been working on is I'm trying to, of course, every year harvest a good mature buck, but I'm trying to harvest bucks from Mashantucket. And I've shot a couple big ones the past couple of years, and I got them mounted. And so when my time comes and I can't go in the woods anymore, I can leave that to my community, and they can see, these beautiful animals that walk this land and that process. And a lot of the meat that I harvest, I give back to the community anyways. Like I'm doing a free meat giveaway. I have like 40 pounds of burger that I'll be giving away towards the end of this month. So just spreading and trying to reconnect people outdoors is really the main goal, is building that connection back up, helping people reconnect with, at one point in time, all of our people were hunter-gatherers and spent time and had a closer relationship with nature.
I think it's crazy. I absolutely love it. I love the journey that you're gonna endure soon. And I mean, when I had saw that you were going to do this Alaskan hunt, like I was totally mind blown. And I have some questions about it, because like, are you going to do that on tribal land there, or are you just doing it as like a guided hunt or whatever?
So I'm going out with family friends. I'm going with my father and two of our family friends. And one of them, Steve Pearson is his name. He's a registered Alaskan guide. So he goes each and every year, and he's been going for a long time. My dad has gone out a few times with him, and my dad was able to harvest a big bull moose with a 64-inch spread, a big grizzly, black bear, a caribou. And he talked to me, and he was like, "Are you ready to come?" And I was ready to come forever. Like, can you make your own money and put it up to come? He said, "I'm not paying for you." I was like, "Ah, man." Tried to get at least one more good hunt out of him. But yeah, everything fell in place, and I've received a lot of support from the community in helping fund the trip. And even I was able to, through the help of my dad, lock down a really cool sponsor for this trip as well. Swarovski Optics has donated me a scope for my 300 that I'm bringing out on the trip.
I think I've heard of them before.
Yeah.
It's not a bad sponsor.
Not a bad sponsor, right? I was like, I don't know how this came about, but it really all fell in place, and we're getting close. We're a little more than a month out. And I got the rifle pretty much all set. We're putting the scope on. The scope, I literally got the scope yesterday. But this trip is really something that I've been dreaming about. I've always wanted to get to Alaska. We're going to be out there. We're flying into Anchorage, and then from there, we have to take a plane to McGrath. And in McGrath, my dad and our friends have a buddy who has a plane. It's a little tribal community there, and we'll be able to spend a day there with the community, interact with them, and cook them a meal, and just be able to pick their brains a bit. And then from there, our buddy will fly us out on his bush plane about 60 or so miles into central Alaska. And we'll be out there for about 14 days hunting.
Wow. I guess it sounds like this is kind of a setup for a second podcast, because when you get back home, because I want to hear this like full-fledged from start to finish, how this trip goes, because you see and you hear about all of them, but I feel as if that the stories that are going to come from it are going to be something else.
Yeah, I'm getting more and more anxious the closer it gets, but this is hopefully going to be a good one.
Trev brought up a good point that I was thinking there earlier. I would imagine the window is there for you to be able to reach out to different tribal nations across the country, and reach out and almost collab where you could go to different reservations across the country and share a hunt with them.
Yeah,
I think that would be really cool for your future YouTube channel, for you to be able to leave the Northeast and show this reservation in this state and what they have to offer, and from Arizona to Wyoming to Pacific Northwest and whatever.
So far, that's right in line with what we're doing. We're coming up names for like the Res Tour or something,
right.
But we're gonna bounce around Res to Res for sure. We've had a bunch of people extend the invite already. I'm fortunate enough to have an awesome family and a big family that is spread out. So like those opportunities that I'm mentioning in Virginia, that's from another indigenous community there. And then South Dakota, another indigenous community there. I have a buddy in Montana, and he's offered, as long as I get the tag, when I get the tag, he's offered to bring me out in Montana after elk. And Yashki Perkins, he's awesome. He works with Hoyt a bit. And out there, I've got a reservation in Washington, Colville Res, which is like over 1 million acres. And they have big muleys, big elk, tons of bear. So those opportunities are definitely on the horizon. And that's another key goal of Res Life Outdoors, is to highlight these indigenous communities in the way that they hunt off their land, and being able to share a hunt and a good meal with them.
I think bringing the light to that is something that needs to be done, honestly, where people need to understand. Because I think there's a lot of people out there that are very, ignorant and uneducated in some of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just trying to be a best friend in San Carlos.
I just think it's cool because, at the root of Res Life Outdoors, it was more or less, your res and what you do where you were born and raised. But with that platform, you can shed light on all reservations across the nation. And like we were talking about before, where in the Northeast, you have the coastline, you do the quahogs and the clams and all that stuff, where when you go to Montana, they don't know nothing about that, but they're going to turn you on to other things that come from the land that we don't have in the Northeast.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something really important to do as a hunter, is go out and have new experiences. You can never perfect this game, but you can put in the time and effort to learn different tactics and ways to go about it. And taking the time to go hunt with other folks and see how they do it is a real good way to go about it.
Man, I'm excited to see all this.
Even the different ways they prepare and cook.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's white-tailed deer or elk, it's still venison, right? But all the ways that you prepare it, you might go halfway across the country and learn a completely different method of preparing and cooking the same type of meat.
Yeah, and having the opportunity to experience those traditional meals. I've been fortunate to be able to travel to other communities and have them prepare meals, and it's never a bad meal.
Right.
Well, man, I think that we've shed a lot of light on some really good topics, and I feel as if that there's a second episode when you get back from Alaska. But I do have one last question for you, man, and that is, I'm honestly, I say this all the time, but I feel as if this is going to be the best what drives you outdoors. So, without further ado, man, what drives you outdoors?
It's just really the most rewarding thing. It's something that I love to do. It's something that I want to protect. I want to preserve. I want it available for my children and my children's children. And it's really the most rewarding way of life. It's something that's extremely passionate. There's a beautiful community that surrounds it. Hunters may get a bad rap sometimes, but this community has been accepting with open arms, and it's something that we can all relate on. I love to see the stuff that you guys are doing all the time. You guys are constantly inspiring me, and I hope one day we can collab and connect as well in the woods. And go.
We're too close not to.
Yeah,
we have to. But yeah, it's everything. It's a extremely rewarding way of life. If you don't do it, take the time to just have the conversation and maybe come sit in the woods, have that experience, because it's more than killing like everyone thinks. There's nothing better than getting out there early in the morning. It may seem rough when that alarm clock goes off, but getting out there and watching the forest come to life. And I feel extremely fortunate that we have the opportunity to do this freely. And I can't see myself doing anything else.
You knocked it out of the park, just as if I thought you would. It's been a real pleasure to hear about some of the traditions and some of the things of the tribe, and really educating people on everything that kind of goes on, man. And I hope that everybody goes out and kind of follows along with what you got going on in the future of Res Life Outdoors, man. For those people that do want to go and check you out and see everything, can you kind of guide them in the ways of your social media and so on and so forth?
Yeah, everything social media will be Res Life Outdoors, so it's REZ Life Outdoors, all one word. ResLifeOutdoors.com is our landing page for our website right now. That's getting wrapped up still. We just launched merch, which is available on our website as well. There's a link there. But we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we're on YouTube.
Awesome, man. Absolutely great.
I got to jump in. Another shameless plug. If you're local, we have a lot of listeners in Connecticut, southeastern Connecticut. If you haven't checked out the Mashantucket Pequot Museum, I highly recommend it. I haven't been in years, but after talking to you, I think I need another visit down there. So if anyone's interested in that, I highly recommend checking that out.
Definitely come check it out. We're going on our 25th anniversary this year. I'm actually wrapping up next month. August 11th is our 25th anniversary. I'm curating the exhibit for the 25th anniversary. It's about the 13 wounds, which I can get into a whole nother conversation with you guys about, which will be really awesome. But yeah, come by. You guys definitely come by. I'll bring you guys through and give you a tour. And we'll be able to bullshit and have a good conversation there as well. But yeah, definitely come by. We have a lot going on this year with it being our 25th anniversary coming up. There'll be events pretty much every month.
That's awesome. And everybody goes there to go to the casino, but there's a whole line of history that puts into place that's not just the casino. The Indians aren't just trying to steal your money. They want to teach you about them too, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, if you're at the casino, correct.
All right.
What's that?
I said, but yeah, still come gamble. Still come spend.
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if you're at the casino and you're gambling, you can take the zip line. Doesn't the zip line bring you right out to the museum?
Right. Damn, yeah. You go to Fox Tower and you head over there and go down the zip line, and you'll be to the museum in 1 minute. and it's air conditioned in there. It's nice and cool. We got a bunch of cool stuff for you to see. There's Res Life outdoor merch in the museum gift shop.
Nice.
I love it.
And some syrup too, probably,
Absolutely.
Let's go.
That's awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you jumping on, dude. I don't think that it's going to be the last time that they hear your voice here, and we are really looking forward to seeing the future that holds for Res Life, and I hope that we can collab in the future together, video, podcast, whatever it takes. We're really looking forward to it. And for everybody else, I hope you guys all go and check out reslife.com and all of them on social media. And for everybody else, thanks for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.